Let's start getting our pace of our stroll, just so we have a really natural thing going. Everyone feeling good?
In 2008, Bennett Foddy uploaded a Flash game to his website. It was a simple track and field game where all you had to do was win a 100-meter dash. Easy enough, right? Well, no, because you were controlling a spaghetti-limbed runner who would faceplant the moment you tried to move his legs. It became a viral sensation, and it led Foddy to create more frustrating games about human movement, including 2017's hit Getting Over It. Now, Foddy is taking his slapstick comedy to new heights with Baby Steps, a full open-world game about walking, or trying to walk, at least. But why is Bennett Foddy still making games about walking over 15 years after QWOP? To get to the heart of that, I asked him to take a walk with me through New York City's Central Park.
As we set up on this walk, I want to know your wisdom. Do you have a tutorial for us about the best way to walk as we set out on this?
In real life or
in real life? Yeah.
Best way to walk. Don't think about it.
Okay.
That's key.
That's really important. Yeah.
I used to, as a kid, have to do like Christmas service where you're singing and you're having to walk like this, like really, really slow.
Sure.
But everybody's watching you, so you're trying to kind of just all you got to do is walk.
Okay.
And you'll see the kids just falling over it's like I thought about it a bit too much, This is not a normal sort of, so go fast, I guess, would be a good advice.
Okay, go fast would be good advice, which is the opposite of what we have to do for the purposes of this video. Great. Let's start by just talking about how you got into game development. Tell me about your first steps, as it were, of getting into making games.
Totally. I mean, as a little kid, I was in love with video games like everybody that I know, but too dumb to be able to do anything about it. Sure. I had like old 8-bit computers and stuff, and was trying to learn to make stuff in BASIC. And I tried again, like, I don't know, probably a dozen times, over the years. I remember trying to learn to make games in like Ball and C on my PC in the 90s. I was trying to make some with a friend at some point and just kept trying over and over again. Didn't really click until Flash came around. I don't remember which versions of Flash it was, but they upgraded from ActionScript 2 to 3. It became like a real programming language.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out on TIG source forums online and looking at tutorials, like written down tutorials, and it's like, I think actually maybe this is just finally the one that I can do.
Yeah.
And so I just started kind of like messing around with that, making something super simple, and threw it up on my personal website.
Yeah.
And it's like a bunch of people played it, and it was like, oh my God, I'm totally hooked just in that moment. But it really, I needed to wait. I think like so many people, I needed to wait for the right tool to come along, because it was a lot harder. I mean, it was like a lot in the 80s and 90s and the early aughts. It was just like, it was a lot harder, and then suddenly tools came along that made it easy. So from that point forward, it's like 2005 or something like that.
Yeah.
I made a game called Too Many Ninjas.
Was that your first Flash game, or?
Yeah, it was my first ever game that I've finished.
Yeah.
And I think maybe Kotaku wrote
about it. Sure.
It was back when Flash games could be written about online.
Right, yeah.
There was like a little moment.
Era.
So it's like timing as much as anything, just
right.
Really, but I was sort of lucky to be in the right place at the right time. I posted on TIG source. I remember the first comment was very encouraging. Was Derek Yu kind of jumped in.
Yeah.
It was like, I really like this, and it was sort of like that. That was kind of it for me, I think, at that point.
That's how you got started with it. How do we get to QWOP? Because QWOP comes, 2008? Yeah, so a couple of years after you get started with Flash, right?
Right. So when I did my first Flash game, I was, I suppose I was in grad school for philosophy, and I was trying to finish up my dissertation. And then we moved to the States. We moved I had a job at Princeton. And I was still kind of like noodling on stuff. I had made a cricket game called Little Master Cricket, which was the first time I ever used a physics engine.
Okay.
Because the Box 2D became available to use in Flash.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I barely need to write any code if I use this. I just have to kind of do level design, basically, and then the game mechanics will flow from the physics engine.
Right.
Which is incredible if you don't know how to write code. It's like another example of it getting easier. In that game, the character is a kind of a rag doll who's tethered to the ground, and his cricket bat is tethered to your mouse, and it's all kind of very constrained. I had an idea. I wanted, first of all, to do like a fencing game in that format. And then I thought maybe like track and field. If I could untether his feet from the ground, I could make something that was like track and field. But it's not so easy to do that in a way that looks like real running.
Of course.
Just immediately he's falling over. I'm like, that's the thing. It doesn't need
That's the whole game, yeah.
Right.
So QWOP, ends up taking off in 2010.
Yeah, so I guess in 2008 there wasn't really this culture of YouTube Let's Plays, but in 2010 Critical did a YouTube video of himself just playing QWOP, speaking in a silly voice.
Yeah.
O and P move the calves while Q and W move the thighs. And it is fucking impossible.
Which just got picked up by some of those kind of YouTube aggregators that were popular at the time, and it really just went through the roof, went kind of viral. And I was still working as a philosopher at the time. But suddenly, there's a lot of attention on this thing. I'm kind of scrambling to keep my website from falling over,
right.
and getting invitations to give talks and stuff. And I think that's probably the moment where I start to think, well, I should probably be doing this full time, some sort of way.
Yeah.
But it took me some years to be able to get there.
It's so funny because in 2010, I was back from college, hanging out with friends or something like that, and I remember in that era, you didn't really know much about who made games quite yet. It wasn't everyone's on Twitter and you kind of get it. So at the time, we had no idea if it was intentionally a joke or if it was supposed to be a serious game that just didn't work well. Was that kind of the intention of making that game? Did you want it to be slapstick and silly? What was your?
I definitely enjoyed the fact that it was slapstick and silly.
Yeah.
That kind of sense that you got of not knowing if it was intentional or not was not intentional itself at first. But it became a thing that I started to realize was making it work for people. It's you get to a weird website that's got very bad web design and it doesn't really function properly, and there's this poorly embedded game. And I think people felt a little bit I found something.
Yes.
Which was a dream that you could still have on the internet at the time, to find a weird website. Something that we don't really do anymore is everything is kind of aggregated onto a small handful of sites and apps. But I think people still had this kind of idea of I'm gonna really troll through and find some kind of deep internet shit.
Yeah.
And so I started to feel I should never update this website, and I should never update this game. And I could have added high score tables and sort of social elements and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think that kind of would have killed the vibe a little bit.
Yeah,
so,
if you had made QWOP today, it might have looked like a very, very different game, culturally.
And I did remake it for the iPhone, and I tried to do something a little more polished. And I think in retrospect, sometimes you just things have to have a kind of quality of liveness, sometimes there's a sort of a sense of life that comes out of amateurism.
Sure.
And even when you get a little bit better at the craft and you can kind of not do that, sometimes you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of said that the idea came from just this playing with this physics engine, and it was I want to do a track and field game. Were you trying to say something about walking at the time, or the awkwardness of the human body, or was it really just kind of this is just a concept, and whatever? Because it's interesting that now your career since then has really honed in on that idea.
Right.
What was there an intellectual thought behind it at the time?
Not really, no. I mean, I was trying to do something that was more of an advanced robotics project than what I could actually do.
Right.
But then kind of fun and the humor fell out of it, and you chase after that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's in conversations like this as well, you realize how people are taking things.
Right.
I remember I had a conversation with Wired not long after that, where sort of in the interview, in the conversation, it sort of crystallized for me what it was that was interesting about the work, and then I was able to kind of pursue that a little more.
What was it that was interesting to you at the time?
Well, no, what was interesting to the interviewer was this stuff about being self-conscious of your movement, and we're talking about walking real slow is difficult, because now you're thinking about what walking is like.
Right.
Suddenly becomes difficult, and I think this kind of process of you're doing something that you know how to do,
Right.
or your body knows how to do. So you start to think about it, your ability to do that falls apart, or maybe you start to gain a bit more of an understanding. There's that kind of cycle is in all video games, right?
Right.
To some extent. It's like when you're playing Bloodborne and you go from being terrible to sort of sucking a little bit less and getting a little better and a little better, and then you take like a breath here and there to sort of see what's changing in your behavior. Mm-hmm. And that lets you have a theory about how to get better. And I don't know, I mean, I think even from learning to walk for real as a baby, like that's so much of human experience, right? So I was interested in that and started trying to pursue it.
I kind of like have this joke where I'm like, Bennett Foddy's games are about like get good, but about walking, right? Where it's like you really have to like learn to do it. So I see that connection. That like, makes total sense. Now you kind of, it was interesting because after QWOP, you kind of still were noodling on this idea for a little bit, because I remember you had GIRP, right?
Yep,
which was
right.
kind of like similar, but for climbing.
Yep.
And then of course CLOP. I remember playing a lot at the time and being like, oh, QWOP guys got a new game. CLOP, this is crazy. Why were you kind of like, at that point, kind of stuck on that idea, right? Kind of like, oh, you know, like, well, there's more to explore here.
It felt rich. I think that there is still more to explore there, you know, and I don't think that getting over it is that far away, honestly. It's the kind of idea of, the sort of basic mechanical idea. I'm going to give you a rig, a physics rig, which is you can think of the actual way that the character is set up as almost being like a level design thing.
Right.
And then I'm going to put them in a designed level, and the interplay between those two things is really where all of the kind of gameplay comes from, where the kind of expressive quality comes from.
Yeah.
And the actual mechanics of GIRP and QWOP. In GIRP, you're pressing keys on a keyboard to grab handholds, and QWOP, you're moving muscles, and those are very, very different things.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the same kind of creative process, I guess. We're just trying to set up an interesting rig and see what kind of falls out of it, I guess.
Right. Yeah, it's so interesting to hear you talk about it as like a physics experiment, because I guess like the human experience is kind of a physics experiment in some way, and that seems to be like almost what these games like accidentally or maybe intentionally now get at, right? This idea that like, yeah, man, we're all just kind of like weird ragdoll bodies trying to figure out what to do with them. Is that kind of how you look at these things at this point of like, you know, where you are after making all these games, or are you still kind of like, it's just kind of me doing a little joke?
Well, yeah, no, sometimes it does flow from a joke, but I don't know. Games have this kind of flow. I think a lot of the time when we're inventing a game, we start with how things are and trying to capture reality, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So you know, it is true that in order to walk, you have to rotate your limbs.
Right.
You have to activate your muscles, and that's kind of an inspiration.
Right.
Then in trying to kind of simulate that, you find an abstraction. That the abstraction is a set of rules which kind of loosely evoke the thing you were originally trying to capture. And I think the difference between, let's say, poetry or painting, where you're trying to capture life, and games, is in games is very, very frequently the case we start by trying to capture life. And unless we're making like iRacing or something like that, or a flight simulator, mostly what we do is at some point we cease moving toward that and we start moving toward something that's closer to chess or to poker. Is more of a kind of a rules. Oh, some kind of interesting rules fell out of this, and some interesting types of play fell out of this, and now I'm not seeking reality anymore in the design. I think that is so much from AAA games down to the kind of quickest, sort of cheapest indie games. I think that that is very commonly the way that we design them.
Your games are about walking. It's so funny because every game, or not every game, but a lot of games are also like, not about walking, but walking is incredibly important to them, and something you don't think about, right? It's something just like, you press a stick, you really take it for granted, right? I'm wondering, are there other games that you have played where you're like, oh, this approach to walking, like Death Stranding, for example, like, have you played that? Do you feel like he's getting into something there where you're like, oh, I see.
So I love Death Stranding, and you know, it was major inspiration on Baby Steps, our new game. But even that one is pretty much you push the left stick and he runs, and you have to worry about him falling over and changing his balance and stuff. But it's not direct in the way that I'm trying to get to. But there are a lot of games that are. I think tends to be things like driving games, right? Flight simulators, anything that involves a vehicle tends to be a much more sort of like a true representation of how those vehicles work. You know, an accelerator and a brake, and you have to do those things. I'm not just going to push the left stick in the direction I want to go, and the car just goes there. And I don't know why that is, except it's probably just that traversal is not really the point of most of those games, right? Like in the average open world 3D game, walking is the way that you get to where you want to do the thing that you're going to do, some exceptions. So, but even something like Prince of Persia, Uncharted, it's jumping really, or it's climbing, and walking is just the kind of like the boring thing that gets you there.
Yeah, like a Mario game is like, it's about the jumping, not the moving. That just, you have to move to jump.
Right, exactly. Now, you can make walking interesting really easily, actually, you know, depending how much expression and how fluid you want it to be, how lifelike you want it to be. If you want to make like a non-lifelike game about walking, you can do that really easily. But now you have to give somebody something interesting to do that's not simply, hey, just get over this rock, you know.
Right.
In QWOP, it's just, hey, can you walk at all? That's it, right? That's the whole experience. Can you walk down a straight track with no obstacles?
Yeah.
I think that's maybe testament to the reason why we don't see a lot of like detailed walking in games, is that as soon as you do that, you're on the hook to make it possible to do something interesting with the walking.
Yeah, I remember QWOP, my favorite memory of it is playing it for the first time and having a night where we were trying to like beat it for the first time, right? And getting it. And I remember getting to that hurdle like halfway through it. And we spent a long time trying to figure out like how to deal with the hurdle, and the fact that that's like the only real challenge in the game. And I think we figured out at some point that if you like bump into it fast enough and kick it off screen, it despawns. And so that became the strategy, right? Of like,
Imagine I made a whole world of obstacles for QWOP, right? Like that would be funny, but nobody would be able to get to them. If I put in the effort to make a whole world, then I'm on the hook to make it easier to walk around, right? And so to make it easy to walk around while still being kind of expressive and rich, that's a tough project. That takes a long time.
This is a good transition into Getting Over It, which I feel like is a game that is very, almost like a deconstruction of QWOP, the way I think about it, because it's like, well, it's QWOP, but what if you don't have legs, right? Like you've learned how important it is to like move on legs. What if we take that away from you? How did QWOP inform that game? Did it at all, or was
yeah,
it
absolutely. So I mean, it's a fusion of QWOP and Sexy Hiking, which was the freeware game by Jazzwo that I was inspired by. In Sexy Hiking, you can walk, but you know, it's not really a major part of the gameplay. I think that when I saw that, and I kind of came to that game late in a kind of a retro way, I recognized something that was trying to do something similar to what I had been trying to do, which is to say, well, we'll take a verb like climb, which is usually abstracted away from the player and automated, and make it extremely non-automatic. I felt like, oh, this could be something a little different if it were made in a somewhat more polished, somewhat more kind of modern physics engine-y way. I think it could get a little richer, but also it could get more reliable, and it would support a bigger world if I did that. It's easier to say that than to do it, and I think there's a reason why. I mean, there's a lot of games that are inspired by Getting Over It. Almost none of them have like a complicated physics style of gameplay. Most of them have like a golf gameplay. Because that's much easier to make it stable, and to, you're thinking about like Only Up uses like a pretty standard character controller. I mean, I love those games, but it's just I think it shows what a pain it is to actually make a kind of a physics system that works in a complicated world.
If QWOP we're talking about is kind of being like, it was a little joke, right? Like a physics experiment. Like Getting Over It feels like it has a message, right? Like in what you're talking about.
Hopefully a few messages.
Oh, hopefully a couple. I mean, what is that game like about to you?
Okay, so it's about one of the things that it's really about is about the types of striving that we do when we play video games. It's about what makes a video game tick for me. What makes me play them. I'm trying to share how I think about why I even want to play a video game. What is the kind of meaning? What is the value in it? And in order to do that, I have to get a little bit closer to this sort of senses of frustration and kind of irritation and all those sorts of things, which at some point realized were really making games tick for me. There were things over the years. Obviously, if you are an 80s kid, games were just annoying.
Sure, yeah.
And they got progressively less annoying, right?
Yeah.
But then I think during the kind of Flash era, I remember playing some of the first Massacre games I played was like Mighty Jill-Off, which was by an Anthropy.
Right.
Thinking, it's interesting that some of that kind of feeling that I miss was brought back by making a game that is sort of intentionally abrasive. I think that I wanted to kind of make an expression that would bring people inside of that. Right? Yeah. One of the things that I think games, maybe art in general, can do that is important to me is you can take things that people are sure they don't like, and through giving them an experience with that thing, you can kind of make an argument, no, maybe you do like it, or maybe you can like it if you just see it this way. And so it's trying to do that with the feeling of losing, I guess.
Got it. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's not, for me, it's not really about getting good. It's about what it's like to be trying and failing to get good.
Yeah. Fail better.
Fail better.
Yeah.
It's sort of like my favorite moment of all of the kind of interactions I had with fans. I got a message from a fan who had said he was getting more and more angry as he was playing the game and sort of really, really freaking out and getting stressed. And then at some point that just broke, and Zen arrived. And from that point forward, it was just like, it was almost comforting to lose progress and to restart. And I love that. I love the idea that art and media and games can do this, can take something that is like really a part of your personality and kind of flip it on its head.
Yeah.
And so I was interested in that as well. And then I guess the other part of getting over it is it's about, I think a lot of game designers have a kind of a strange and conflicted relationship with the fact that games are understood to be toys. They're understood to be, especially as they're understood to be products. And the relationship that we have by default with players is as a vendor to a customer, and the customer is buying a product. That's the engine of everybody being able to pay rent. And I don't want to, totally explode that relationship. But at the same time, I feel like that's kind of the enemy of certain types of artistic expression. How can I send you back to the beginning of the game if our relationship is that you paid me money to play the game, right?
Right, yeah.
And I wanted to kind of question that relationship and sort of explore some of the different kinds of ways that a player could be in a relationship with the designer, with the creator of something, that are not just in a kind of a customer relationship, whether you're sharing some kind of like interest or pleasure in something, or whether it's adversarial. I wanted to explore the different ways that those could be.
Did you have these ideas in mind, like even back of head when you were like making QWOP?
No, I mean, I think I got there. I mean, QWOP was part of how I got there, right? I mean, I think the thing about QWOP is it's a free game.
Right.
It's a free game I worked on for a week. And that frees it of that whole framework, right? Because nobody comes to it with any expectations. And if they don't understand or like it or enjoy it, that they're in and out in 15 seconds,
Right.
And it was like 75 kilobytes. It just even on a bad internet connection, it's like you're in there, right? And if it's not attractive to you, you're immediately out. That's very freeing because you can do anything in that context, right? You don't have to offer value for money in that situation.
Yeah.
And so it was that form, and that was, I guess, what I was missing as I was starting to pivot into making more commercial work, is that liberty. And I guess it's kind of in nostalgia for that I got to making Getting Over It.
Were you surprised that QWOP blew up in the way that it did, and were you also surprised that Getting Over It blew up in the way that it did? Because I feel like both of those games both had a sort of viral success that like people dreamed to even get once, and you kind of hit twice. Like, did you have a feeling that those things would pop off that way?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. QWOP is just a joke in a way. Getting Over It, I had a budget,
Right.
It was very small. I was really tightened my belt and did that on a shoestring because I thought only sickos would be interested. And, it's easy for me now to look at it and be like, oh, I can see why actually there's a lot more sickos than what I recently thought.
There's so many sickos.
So many.
Yeah.
And it's really, I mean, I don't think I had a deep understanding of streaming culture. I don't think I had a deep understanding of Steam culture as well.
Right.
Steam is a really, really interesting culture now. And the kinds of games that pop off on Steam, it's very hard to predict. And it's not anything like what we traditionally see as kind of commercial, big market games. And there's so many subcultures on Steam as well. It's not even as though it's like one big monolithic audience. There's dozens of little subcultures there.
It almost feels like I know you wouldn't take credit for this, but like when I look at games like Peak or like all of these kind of like lo-fi games that are kind of about like the annoyance and frustration of movement that are very friction heavy, like to me they feel very indebted to getting over it. Do you feel that? Do you feel like this modern wave of games kind of is pulling something or in conversation with it?
I think there's a thread there, but I think Peak's success owes more to understanding golf with your friends, which are hangout games.
Yeah.
And it's definitely true that the kind of games that have any that owe anything to my work, the sort of frustrating, unfriendly games.
Yeah.
That's a really good match for golf with your friends style social hangout games. Because anything that has like, when we're making a AAA single player experience, we want the player to kind of flow through it and to see all of the content, and they have a little counter that tells them how many side quests they did, and they'll kind of never get stuck.
Yeah.
But getting stuck with your friends is great. That's gold dust, really. And golf with your friends is maybe one of the first multiplayer golf games I've seen where everybody sits around and waits for you to get your ball in. You start to feel all this pressure as everybody's, and I think that golf already, just by its nature, has that kind of frustrating feeling. So, I mean, I really see Peak as kind of being a marriage of those two genres. And I mean, I'm playing, the kind of bootleg only up on Fortnite creative mode. It's similar kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's people hanging out. I think that's a natural marriage. I wish I had thought of,
It could have been you.
Yeah, I mean, we would have loved to do massively multiplayer baby steps, but don't know how.
I should have asked this at the very beginning, and I didn't. Are you a walker? Are you someone who walks a lot? When you make so many games about it, is this a thing that you do and think about?
Yeah, I actually have been. I do like hiking.
Okay.
I have been into it for the last, I guess, since around the time that I did QWOP. Actually, I don't know if it's related.
Might be.
I think maybe just living in the States, you've got like such an amazing system of national parks, and we've just been kind of collecting them and hiking a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the space it gives you to think. It's nice to get outside, touch grass a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Which makes sense because that's kind of what Baby Steps seems to be about, having played a little bit of it now and kind of having a sense of it. I get that sense where it's a hiking game where you have a lot of time to think. Tell me about how you got from getting over it to that. You had Ape Out in between, but
That's
I think
right.
getting over it feels like this feels like a pretty natural continuation of getting over it in some way to me.
Right. So I had been co-working with Gabe while he was working on Ape Out around the time that I was doing getting over it, and we were exchanging play tests and help with the kind of various bits and pieces. And I guess probably I want to say 2017 or 2018 in that kind of zone. I put my hand up to help him get it over the finish line and get it out there. So I did some art and level design and that kind of thing for that.
Yeah.
And of course we had Maxi Bach doing the soundtrack for that game. In 2019 we were just kind of making prototypes and be like, can we keep the collaboration going? Let's see what we can do, what's interesting. And we made a whole ton of different prototypes for different types of games, multiplayer games. We had shooters. There was like
oh my God.
It was like a bike game in there. There's a golf game.
Golf again is a recurring
Well, yeah,
theme for you.
golf. golf is so adjacent to the stuff that we're interested in a kind of a certain sort of way. But then in December in 2019, Gabe had this pitch. He was like, well, I'm interested in doing something that is like, imagine if QWOP, but good. basically. This is kind of like
kind of a backhanded,
no,
pitch.
no, but in the ways that we've been talking about, right? Like in the sense that you could, he thought that if he took some of the kind of procedural animation tech from Ape Out that he'd come up with,
right,
the kind of more arcadey feel, a less kind of physics gamey feel, and kind of like married it to the idea of QWOP, that we could have something that where you could actually walk and we could actually get stuff that like we could have sort of interesting challenges like there are in getting over it, but for a kind of a full 3D walking experience.
Right.
And I told him I didn't think that was possible, and I thought it was too hard, and there was no way we could do it. And he was like, well, screw you, I can do it. And he made a prototype in about, like a day or two. It was very, very simple. It's just like boxes and sticks. But right away you could see actually, yes, this was gonna work.
Yeah.
And it was gonna be fun. And so, yeah, I think it's like the marriage in a way of the ideas of QWOP and Ape Out, creating a sort of a new type of gameplay. It's also, I mean, you can look at it and say, hey, this looks like Death Stranding if Death Stranding was really doing the thing that it's kind of pretending to be doing. All of that sort of stumbling and tripping and falling, balancing your weight and stuff like that is a bit abstracted and kind of animation driven in that game.
Right.
And I think we had been playing that and getting influenced by it, but also feeling frustrated that it wasn't more like one of these sort of full physics games. And so, that's kind of it did in a way bubble up from the previous work of everybody on the team.
That's really fascinating. It's interesting because I think that, like, having played through the opening of that game, right, where the demo kind of takes place, right, a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, I think, is like kind of more explicitly there in the story of it, right, where it's like you're almost dealing with this like man-child, adult baby who's like almost like an infant learning to walk for the first time, right? Like, it really feels like, y'all are pulling the subtext out of QWOP. These things that like maybe a lot of people interpreted about QWOP that were not what was intended. Is that kind of what you're doing with that game?
Right, so character design for that game needed to fit what was already there in the mechanics when it was just some squares and circles and lines. Somebody who walks in a very silly, comical way and maybe falls over a lot, at least at first, right? One of the things I should say that we were not sure about at that time was it ever going to be possible to walk without falling over in baby steps? That was unclear. So we wanted a character where it would make sense that they weren't very good at walking.
Right.
And so this idea of this of a kind of a sort of a couch potato,
right,
started to kind of fit. So we were, as a team, we were sort of trying to toss around ideas and weaving a kind of a backstory that would make sense for this. Of course, the beginning of the game where he gets kind of raptured away into a pool of water
the
is
Netflix dimension,
right.
kind of,
That's straight out of Another World. It's a joke about Another World, of course, where a very wealthy and successful physicist with a Ferrari gets raptured to another world. A lot of the ideas and the design for the game are about inverting tropes from other open world 3D games.
Right, yeah.
It's not the hero's journey, he's not a hero, he's not a masculine ideal.
Right.
And I think we kind of got to it being like a little bit about failed masculinity in this kind of way.
So again, you come back to this idea of walking as the central thing and the central frustration of it. Why? Why do you think it's something that like you just keep finding yourself circling around, this idea of like movement and the frustration around it? Like, what keeps drawing you to that, like nearly 20 years after QWOP at this point?
One of the things that I think about sometimes is that there are things that we do in our lives that we barely think about, but maybe we have strong opinions about how good at them we are. And if I asked you, are you good at walking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, I can walk. Yeah, I can stand up. That's good. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I always think about there's that Justin Smith game, No Brakes Valet. There's an old Frank Lance design called Parking Wars. Parking a car in a city is a thing people have strong opinions about their ability to do.
Of course,
right?
yeah. I'm great at parallel parking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a thing. You know, everybody's kind of got this sort of slightly toxic pride in their ability to, if not to do the parallel park, at least to find a good park, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got some kind of thing like that. It's fun if you're trying to make a game that's about you know, failed or kind of challenged masculinity in the shadow of like this enormous corpus of games where somebody's got superpowers and they're incredibly competent and everybody respects them, then why not pick something that people expect to be good at, right?
Yeah.
You expect to be good at walking. In fact, you always are in a video game because it's abstracted away and you just push the stick. To me, that's the perfect task to be bad at in a way, right? Like it's kind of comically an inversion of something that everybody can do. Here is something that maybe you can't do. I should say that as we worked on this game for going on 6 years, it went from being something that nobody could do, that was incredibly difficult, you're always falling over, to getting to be something that people could in sort of like half an hour, they could get pretty skilled at.
Right, yeah.
And then we start to give the character more and more sort of rich and interesting tasks to do until he's like starting to scale sheer walls just with his feet. This is something that I absolutely could not do.
Yeah,
so, I guess.
Have you tried it?
No,
you never say no.
but he's a lot better at absorbing impact than I am. So
you can slide quite far.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it kind of, the character of it changed a little bit over time.
Yeah.
And it changes, I think, over the course of play as well. You're maybe starting in a situation where we're kind of lampooning the competency of the average AAA character.
Right.
To maybe where you start to actually get some skill and can start to take on challenges and look around and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember when I was playing it, it's like that's the thing that really separates it from QWOP, right? Like QWOP I never got good at. And I don't think anyone ever gets good at QWOP.
Right.
But like there is that feeling in it where like you're almost mirroring what it's like to be a toddler and learn to walk, right? Where it's like you're falling over, then like you can kind of get a couple steps, then you teeter over, and then like you slowly get to it. Were you guys thinking about that? Like thinking about like the actual development of like a human being's walk cycle when doing this game?
No, we were watching very closely how people would learn to walk in the game. And we were trying to kind of see what do people need to know in order to be able to do that? What sorts of help do they need? But yeah, in a way, the kind of dynamic there is that Gabe was making it more and more possible to do real walking. The thing that I was never able to do with QWOP. He's a much more gifted programmer than me.
Sure.
He's a very gifted designer, and he was making it into more and more of this skill thing. Meanwhile, I would set up harder and harder level design. It'd be like stuff that the system couldn't quite do. Like, oh, here you have to walk up a ladder.
Yeah.
It's like the system can't do that. I'm like, oh, you'll figure it out. I have total faith in you. And every time he managed to kind of like actually make it work. So
it's fascinating because it's almost like a mirror to like human development, where it's like that's the way that like toddlers learn to walk or whatever, right? But also that's how playtesting works, I guess, too, right?
Exactly.
Playing a video game works, right?
Exactly.
Do you think that's why your games work so well, right? And why like it feels so, why people are drawn to them, you know? Is there a subconscious thing there that you think maybe is there?
I think there's pleasure in learning, for sure. And I think that's one of the things that is so great about a video game in general, is that it lets you get to learning always, and gets you to the kind of sense of learning the kind of higher levels of things, to learn mastery. You get there so fast in a video game relative to in real life, where you're having to spend thousands and thousands of hours doing something. I think that to me is one of the kind of core pleasures, and you can do stuff to bring that out more.
How's your walking going? Do you feel good?
I'm very conscious of it. I'm incredibly conscious of it.
Kinda what we're
I'm
talking
just
about?
very aware of like how my shoulders move when I'm walking. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep it steady, and then just how everything is connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're QWOPing.
I'm QWOPing over here.
Yeah. It's funny because we're talking about this parallel between like how players kind of learn over time. Do you feel that learning process in your career at this point?
Totally. I mean, I think making video games, especially indie video games, is a good career for people who always want to be learning.
Yeah.
Because there's always something new that you have to do. It's not just like the game making parts. You've got to handle your website, and your interviews, and
Of course.
there's like you're doing accounting.
Yep.
And if you're not a person who wants to learn new skills, you can't really do it.
Right.
So, but I'm sure some people will hear that and be like, that guy's got undiagnosed ADD. I'm sure that's part of it as well.
Yeah.
That's
How do
right.
you feel about your walking in this, like throughout this whole experience?
I'm kind of tottering a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's not too bad.
Yeah. Have you kind of like learned how to walk slow? Are you not thinking about it anymore? Or are you still very
Right
conscious
now,
of
I am
what's going on?
extremely conscious of it.
Yeah,
It's a
'cause-
miracle I don't fall over.
Yeah, yeah, no, me too. I feel like the slower you walk, the more it feels like I can't do this. Actually, it's really difficult.
You're walking pretty fast, I'll be honest.
It feels really slow. I'm a speed walker. Are you a speed walker?
Yeah, definitely.
See, yeah, this is really hard. It's hard to walk slow.
It's not how we learned.
Yeah, no, we learned.
I think this is a separate skill.
Yeah, because it's not one foot in front of the other. It's kind of like
Yeah, you're shifting your weight. It's
yeah,
kind of like-
yeah, barely moving. You
Yeah.
know? It's like it's not right. It's not right. Something's wrong about it. I think the kind of overarching thing I kind of want to ask about, just looking at all of these games, is like, obviously so many of them are about movement, but I think on a broader level, they're just about like frustration, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're just about like dealing with frustration and you know, in all of its different forms. And I think even a lot of your games that aren't about movement, I feel this, where I always think about, I think it's called, is it Spell Hell? It's like the bullet hell spelling game.
What did I call that? Yeah, no, I know the one you mean.
The one, yeah, where it's like, spelling is really easy, but you
Yeah.
abstract it in that game in a way where it's like, it's actually really difficult to do this, and I've kind of literalized this. Like,
Right.
I feel that in so much of your work, whether it's about walking, whether it's about spelling words. Do you think that like that is sort of your main statement, I guess, as a game developer? Like, is that what you're interested in more than walking, more than any of these kind of like really specific things in QWOP?
You know, I think on the one hand, I'm interested in different types of brain feel, and I feel like that's just the certain types of frustrating play, certain types of annoying play, is something that's just underexplored.
Sure.
And it lets us get to a kind of a different way of feeling and a different way of sort of thinking about feeling than we might in a game that was smoother. And we've lived through a period of time where games have focused on quality of life improvements,
Right.
and tend to be a lot smoother and kind of easier to play, and it leaves a lot on the table. So that's one of the things. I think the other big one is, I guess when I'm playing video games, I'm just always looking for the reason why I should be playing them.
Right.
I'm a grown adult, and maybe, and I think by default there's no reason to play a video game.
Sure, yeah.
The stories don't tend to be as good as the ones in books.
Right.
The images don't tend to be as detailed or as rich as the ones in movies. They take more effort, right?
Right.
And so they have to give you a reason to play, and we're always looking for that. And it can be any number of things, right? It can be social, because they can be multiplayer. It can be about developing mastery in those sorts of situations. It can be about learning it. There's a lot we can do. One of the things we can do is to give you a sense of danger, of being in danger, and the only real kind of danger we have is feeling frustrated or angry, right? I can't put you in any other kind of danger ethically in a video game.
Right.
Horror movies tap into this by tapping the kind of hindbrain, the bit that is scared of snakes and spiders and surprises and jump scares and stuff like that. And they can make you care about stuff just by doing that.
Right.
I think there's a relationship with games that are a little bit, challenging. Even Space Invaders has this. Sending you back gives you a sense of both being frustrated, you're annoyed, but you lost something real.
Yeah.
And you want to do it again.
Right.
And that sense of it meaning something, that we work very, very hard to get that.
Yeah, do you think of yourself as making horror games? Is that what you're kind of getting at here? Do you think of QWOP as a horror game?
Is QWOP a horror game? A psychological horror, maybe?
Maybe a little bit.
It's got a little bit of that of that flavor around it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think we have something in common, which is that we're trying to provoke a feeling, a sense of being unsafe when you actually are safe.
Right, exactly.
And we're trying to just get that sense that it matters how you play. It matters what happens in the game, and it matters like that you know, where a lot of games are sort of like, oh, you died.
Yeah.
You see like a game over screen, but then you start again from where you were, and you didn't really lose anything.
Right, exactly.
Over time, I find it hard to care about that.
Yeah.
Whereas if you send me back,
Yeah.
I've lost a lot.
Which Baby Steps has a lot of. You can really slide and lose quite a bit of progress in that game from what I've played so far.
Yes, although you do, unlike in Getting Over It, you do have to kind of put yourself in harm's way. If you want to play it safe, and it's like a real hike.
Okay, okay.
If you want to peer over a cliff and then you should lose your balance and fall over, that's kind of a little bit on you.
Okay,
But we do have a little bit of that.
That sounds, yeah.
And situations where you can feel like it's going to happen as well.
Yeah. Do we want to, can we go down here?
Speaking of feeling unsafe.
Yeah.
Don't fall backwards down the stairs.
After this game, do you feel like you're done with walking as a subject? Do you feel like this is the pinnacle of walking game for you? Or is there still more to explore that games haven't gotten into yet?
I would never want to make a guarantee,
of course.
but I do feel like a golf game has been. Maybe I'll finally get to that golf game.
It sounds like you're circling towards golf game.
Yeah.
Are you a golfer?
No.
Okay.
But I love the structure of it. I was playing UFO 50 recently.
Amazing, right?
It's full of what I call choke machines, which are moments in games or mechanics that where a person is playing well, and you just shake their confidence a little bit, and then they choke and they mess up.
Right.
And to me, I love that feeling. I love introspecting on that feeling. I think everything for me in the games that I'm making is about that moment where you suddenly start to understand or think about what it is that you were doing and why you were messing up. I love that moment when you know you're about to choke. You haven't choked yet, but you can feel your confidence starting to go. You feel yourself starting to look at how you're walking around, and you know you're screwed.
Yeah.
But it hasn't happened yet. I'm fascinated by that. I think that there's this kind of like, how can I both know I'm about to screw up and still screw up? That's the essence of choking. And games are so good. There's so many games are good at setting that up. And golf is kind of the ultimate of this. It's just setting up choke after choke after choke.
Yeah, that's kind of your thing. The choke machine. That is your game, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Incredible. If I were Boulder, this interview would end with me like accidentally falling through here as you said that, and just kind of like oh no. But I think I'll pass on.
Yeah, I think it might be a little on the toxic side.
It might. Yeah, I might die.
Am I about to get hit by a car?
What the fuck is that?
No, this is terrible. This is not working.
I didn't think so, dog.
It's okay.
It's hard. Again, it's awkward to just do things.
Yeah, you can't just do things.
It's hard to just. Yes, you can't just do things. Is kind of the thesis of this whole thing.
Yeah.